Do you ever worry that if you trust unschooling, your kids won't learn what they need and you'll fail them as a parent? After 30 years, I've realised trust is the #1 skill in unschooling, but also the toughest, because everyone says, just trust the process, but nobody shows you how. So in this video, I'll break down how trust really works and share the simple approach I use to help parents build it, so you can finally stop worrying and fully enjoy giving your children freedom. If you get value out of this, please give the video a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, you might want to do that too. The problem with just trust the process is it's easy to say, but you wouldn't tell a brand new driver to just trust the car and get them to their destination. If you do that, you're going to white knuckle the wheel the whole way and probably end up having an accident. Real trust comes from knowing what you're doing is right, not blind faith. It's like learning to use the pedals, check your mirrors, and reverse. Once you have the skills, then you can trust you'll get there safely. But why is trusting the process of unschooling so hard? Well, back when I was a circus artist teaching people to walk a tight wire, the first thing they do is put one foot on the wire and ask, is this really going to hold my weight? It's hard to trust something you have no experience of. Unschooling's the same. It's so unfamiliar to most people that it's daunting. If you don't know how it works or if you're doing it right, it's not foolish to feel nervous, it's human. Giving your child freedom with no prescribed curriculum can be terrifying, especially if all you've ever known is a structured, formal approach like school. I'm lucky I was unschooled. I've experienced it firsthand and I know it works. But you don't need decades of experience to feel confident. You just need to build trust one skill at a time by developing competence in 3 key areas. Let me show you what I call the trust triangle. Each corner of triangle is one aspect of trusting unschooling that can be learned and developed, and in fact enhances the other 2 parts. When you develop all 3 parts, you'll feel authentically confident about unschooling and able to trust the process. The first corner of the trust triangle is about feeling confident in your child's day-to-day life, even on the days when it looks like nothing's happening. Take the other day. We slept in, had a late pancake breakfast, and by mid-afternoon, my kids had spent hours watching TV, playing Minecraft, and were still in their pajamas. Those are the days when the parents I support start to freak out. Are my kids learning anything? But when you choose not to impose lessons or workbooks, when you don't prescribe what's being studied, you have to be able to see that your child is still learning. I break this down for people into 4 simple learning buckets that make it easy to see learning in any moment. The first is simply what you can see them doing and making. Cycling, chopping veg, building a shelter, sketching a pet. If they're doing it, they're learning it. It's wiring the brain. These are practical skills. They include motor skills, life skills that build their independence, as well as developing their creativity. The second bucket I call relate. These are language or communication skills, as well as social and emotional development that you see being learned when your kids are negotiating game rules, hosting a play date, meeting new people, or helping a friend, for example. The third is the think bucket. These are cognitive and self-management skills like executive function, future planning, what's called metacognition, which simply means learning how to learn. So when you see them debugging their Lego build or planning a day out or changing tactics after losing a game, what you're seeing is their mental engine at work: attention, memory, planning, and strategy. The fourth bucket is know. This is their knowledge and literacies: reading, numbers, maps, money, digital skills. And in unschooling, you can see these being learned through all sorts of activities: following a recipe, measuring wood, or playing games. With these buckets in mind, you can practice spotting learning in any moment. For example, when my son made pancakes the other day, he read the recipe and measured the ingredients. He mixed and cooked the pancakes. He timed everything so they'd be cooked perfectly. And he did it all with his sister and his friend. Every day is just do, relate, think, know, on repeat. When you can see that, those lazy days suddenly look a whole lot more productive. And when you can spot learning in any activity, you can trust your child is learning even when it doesn't look like school. Now, it's one thing to trust your child is learning today, but what about next year or 5 years from now? That's where the second corner of the triangle comes in. I have a friend who told me she would unschool, but she's worried that her kids won't learn important subjects if she doesn't teach them. But there's a way to build trust if you're in this for the long haul. And it starts with 2 key shifts. First, you've got to get the school-based idea that certain things must be learned at certain times out of your system. Every time you catch yourself thinking, my child should have learned that by now, notice it and let it go. Every time you let go of a should, you free yourself from the pressure of keeping up with school measures and milestones and make space for real curiosity to grow. And every time you do, you'll feel your own anxiety drop too. It's a process of ongoing deschooling. Second, learn about learning and unschooling. This will also help with deschooling, but the more you understand about the brain and how real learning happens, the less anxious you'll be about timelines and getting it right. When I started learning about the brain, I dove in deep for months, and then, without realizing it, I stopped for months. My brain needed some time to let everything I'd learned simmer for a while before I was ready to dig in and deepen my knowledge. Because learning isn't linear. It happens in cycles. Kids build up layers of knowledge as they move from interest to interest, finding connections, letting their curiosity wax and wane as things become important to them. Over months and years, they'll learn what they need when it's relevant, not just in case they might need it someday, but when it actually matters. The deeper you know that in your bones, the easier it gets to trust unschooling for the long haul. So, will they learn everything? No. And neither did you or anyone else. But what matters is that they'll learn what they need when they need it, because they'll know how to learn and trust themselves to figure things out. If your teenager needs algebra to build something, they'll learn it because it matters. If they don't, they'll learn something else that matters to them. The goal isn't to fill them up with every subject, but to keep their curiosity and confidence alive so they know how to learn anything at any time. That's what prepares them for real life. That's what real education looks like. The third corner of the trust triangle is another one that can keep you tossing and turning. It's the reason that unschooling parents constantly ask, am I doing it right? There are days when my son spends hours in his pajamas building Lego or playing Minecraft, and I start to doubt myself. Are we really giving him what he needs? Almost every unschooling parent I've spoken to has the same worry. This corner is called tending and is all about trusting yourself. But here's what I've learned after years of unschooling. Trusting yourself isn't about being perfect. There are only two things that really matter here. And if you do both, you can trust that you're doing it right. The first is simple, but it makes all the difference. My son enjoys crafting, swimming, his forest school, and anything to do with animals or trains. And since he turned 8, he's desperate to spend as much time as possible with his friends. So we do meetups, swimming, go to classes, and sometimes it's just a day of Lego or crafting. Whatever he's into. Remember, if they're into it, they're learning. So by simply giving them opportunities to do what they're into, they're getting what they need. But opportunities alone aren't enough. The real magic happens in the environment you create. I don't mean setting up a homeschool classroom or books. You have to tend to the environment for learning to reliably happen. If children's fight or flight response kicks in, even mildly, learning stops. It's not just about shouting, though that matters too. Anything that raises their stress gets in the way of learning. For learning to happen, their brain needs to stay out of survival mode, in learning mode. That means providing not just activities and opportunities, but also food and nutrition, love and care, and especially for unschooling, an absence of pressure. If you're tending to these two things, opportunities and an environment for learning, you can trust you're giving your child what they really need, even if it doesn't look like school. When these three pieces come together, seeing learning happening, learning when it matters, and tending to your child's needs and environment, each corner strengthens the others. But what if we do all this and it doesn't work out? What if your child never learns to read and they fall behind forever? For many parents, this is the moment that the doubts come flooding back. So watch this video next, where I'll show you exactly how to handle reading as an unschooler, even if your child's behind. If you got value out of this, please give the video a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, you might want to do that too.